Hey, I'm Mike Parsley with the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency. I wanted to share another tip with you today, and that tip is about crankbaits. And what I wanted to do is provide you with a couple of rules of thumb that you can go back to when you start throwing crankbaits. You know, when you start off early in the spring with cooler water, say in January, February, one of the best crankbaits that I've found that you can go to is a DT series from Rapala. So this is a DT10, and early in the year, this color, for whatever reason, this is what a lot of people go to, and this is one of your better baits that you can throw, especially if you're down on Tim's Ford or Center Hill or Dell Hollow. This is one of the better lures to throw. And the reason why they call it a DT10 is it's supposed to be a dives to 10 feet crankbait. So you'll want to make sure that you're throwing this bait in 10 feet or less. You want this bait always making contact with the bottom as a rule of thumb. And so if you're throwing this bait over 20 feet of water, that's not what this is for. This is to throw in 10 feet, you know, up to about 7 feet. That's what this is for. When you start getting on in the spring and it gets a little warmer, the fish are going to start moving up a little shallower, and that's when you'll start throwing this DT6. Of course, this is a Rapala DT6, and it's a dives to 6 feet bait. So this bait is good anywhere from 0 to 6 feet of water, and once again, it's that same color. This is an absolute killer bait when you get on Tim's Ford, Center Hill, Dell Hollow, any of those highland reservoirs. This is what you're going to want to be throwing in, I would say, February into March. So once that is going on, you can also start throwing what they call a lipless crankbait. This is a rattle trap type bait. It makes a lot of sound. And you throw that, and you can either yo-yo this up and down from the bottom of the lake up and just let it flutter back down, or you can actually just reel this bait in. This is a good cold water bait, so anytime that you're throwing those DTs, this is also a good option. Once the water starts warming up a little bit more, I normally start looking toward a very slow, wide wobbled crankbait, kind of like your DTs would be. They're a narrower wobbling, but this wiggle wart, an old wiggle wart, is an excellent crankbait, especially early in the year. And you very slowly reel these in and let them crawl over every rock. This bait is good from anywhere from 0 to about 6 feet, and these catch fish like nothing else early in the year. When the fish start getting even shallower, when you start throwing that DT6 and you know you're catching a lot of them, you can actually start throwing other crankbaits as well. This is a Bandit 200, which dives to about 6 feet as well. This bait is a good all year crankbait. You can throw this in the dead of summer and still catch them when they're 0 to 6 feet deep, like on Old Hickory. Old Hickory Lake is a shallow water fishery. You can throw this all summer long, catch fish all summer long on this same bait, especially that same color called root beer. My friend will kill me for letting that out. On Center Hill and Dell Hollow, even in the summer, there are fish shallow on those lakes, but you don't want to be throwing a 200 root beer Bandit. What you want to do is throw a 300, and this 300 will get down to about 8 feet when you're throwing it on 10-pound test line. But that's also a good bait to throw. It just goes a little deeper than the 200. Early in the spring, when fish are spawning, what you can do is throw a square bill crankbait. Square bills don't get very deep at all. 2 to 3 feet, but they have their purpose. These baits can crawl over almost any obstacle in the water, so long as you're reeling slowly and letting them do the work for you. So there's a reason for these short-lipped baits, and that's to get ultra shallow and fish around cover. So logs, wood, trees, this bait will come through it, whereas if you tried to throw a DT6 with that large bill or larger bill through it, this DT6 won't come through it as well as this square bill crankbait. When you get on into the summer and you hear people talk about ledge fishing, that's when the greater majority of fish get out deep on drops toward the river channel, especially when you're dealing with rivers like Old Hickory or Kentucky Lake, Lake Barkley and Pickwick. Lakes like that, they have ledges, and the fish set up on those river ledges just like they set up on the bank in the spring. Just in the summer they like to be a little deeper where the water's cooler. A good way to catch those fish is throwing this 6XD. 6XD, you can get down around 18 feet. A lot of the ledges that people fish on Kentucky Lake in years past have been anywhere from 15 to 20 feet deep. So this is a good bait to reach those ledges and to reach those fish. So a 6XD from Strike King is a good way to go about it. I hope I've explained that crankbaits have their purpose, and each crankbait has its niche. They all don't do the same thing. This 6XD and this square bill are both crankbaits, but you absolutely will not throw these in the same place. This is a shallow crankbait meant to run over wood and trees and rocks and things like that. A 6XD is made to skim and beat the bottom of a lake on a ledge that's 15 to 18 feet deep. So crankbaits have different purposes, and I hope I've explained that sufficiently today.